But then really it started like late last week as more started to come out about DeepSeek. But then the weekend was insane.
It was Weisenthal. Josh is right. It was Weisenthal.
Well, I felt like Joe was a week before everyone.
Joe's
just
the goat.
Pointing out that this might have ramifications for the stock market.
Dan Ives highlights growing concerns about Nvidia following claims by Chinese AI firm DeepSeek that it can achieve high-level AI with fewer Nvidia GPUs. The timing of these claims raised geopolitical fears about China's AI progress, sparking market panic and investor scrutiny over Nvidia's future. Ives argues that the claims are exaggerated, with industry feedback showing no significant reduction in demand for Nvidia's hardware. He views this as a Sputnik moment, driving a competitive AI race between the US and China, which could ultimately accelerate global AI innovation. Despite the noise, Ives believes Nvidia's dominance remains intact, and DeepSeek's emergence signals healthy competition rather than a threat. This, he says, highlights the importance of thorough research and a long-term perspective in navigating market trends.
Yeah, it was, I mean, look, and clearly like on X, there was a lot of questions about it. It was starting to sort of build. But then it was really
Andreessen squirted gasoline
with
on
the
it.
whole Sputnik comment. And then remember, like the bears, right? As we always say, like the bears that are hibernation mode, like when things like this happen, they're going to come out in droves, and that's sort of what happened. And then on the weekend, especially with the 6 million, what does this mean for NVIDIA GPUs? Going into a tech earnings week, could they lower CapEx? I probably 50, 60 calls this weekend.
Okay.
Is the timing suspicious in terms of like when this was? Yeah.
The research paper came out during the 2 hours that TikTok was offline.
Yep.
And I can't help but think that, and I'm not the only person that thinks, there's something symbolic in that timing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the Chinese love to send signals and,
This was a shot across the bow from Beijing. And that, no, it continues to be our view. It was a shot across the bow from Beijing, given where we are with TikTok, ByteDance, and I think also just going into this sort of China in terms of tariff negotiations. But then also you have big tech earnings week. Nervousness was there across the board. And this was kind of like there was gasoline, sort of, hey, it hasn't rained in years. And this was kind of like a little spark that obviously started off.
All right, so we're going to get into all this. We're going to debunk all the stuff. We want to hear about everything that you heard. But I just can't help but notice a lot of people have opinions on this. Most of them have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. I feel like we're in a moment where it almost doesn't matter. People just feel really comfortable talking about enterprise class AI with literally no. So I noticed that's a really big thing, which makes you even more important because you actually are talking to the companies that are deploying the technology. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's really cool. And then I also noticed, though, a lot of people are straddling the fence right now, which we're going to get your take on also once we start the show. Yep. Like a lot of people are like, even people in AI are like, Sam Altman's like, yeah, we might bump up some releases because of this. Now, he might privately be saying something else. Yep. You would know better than I would. Mm-hmm. But the real people in this business are making noises about this being real. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was interesting. But so that's why it's so important that we talk to you.
Dan, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Thank you. So when you're looking at these story companies, right? Because a lot of it is story. How do you balance the fundamentals of the whole thing versus the actual financials mixed in with the technology? The actual it's a lot.
Look, and we've talked about it here before and with you guys a bunch. It's like the generational tech names. I think if you just focus on financials and just near-term sort of numbers, you've missed out on every transformational tech stock the last 20 years, right? I mean, that's sort of always been our view. I think here, it's also why we spend so much time talking to AI, regardless where they are in the ecosystem, tech companies around the world, to understand what's real, what's not.
You need the mosaic. You need all the tiles, where everyone stands.
But
right?
I always say, look, 3 million air miles later, right? Part of how I've done it, you can't call these on Metro North in your Peter Millar vest, okay? Just because you can't see it in the spreadsheet. So I think many have missed so many of these stories because they're not doing the work. They fear into this whole black swan narratives. this is it, what can happen. I feel like when you do the work across the ecosystem, okay, regardless who you're talking to, you feel like you have the confidence to actually to guide others through times like this. Because I always say, like, when things are going up and to the right, my Shih Tzu or Terrier can do that.
Yeah.
When
you're right, you're just another person.
You're
saying
just
the same
another
thing.
one. This party line. When things are tough, and you're going through white knuckle moments. In our 25 years, that's how we've separated ourselves.
Was this a white knuckle week?
This is a white knuckle weekend. Because
are you shook?
Not at all. I mean, if I was, I'd be wearing like an Eddie Bauer sweatshirt or something. I like it, but also
a suit and tie.
I'd be wearing. I'd be wearing.
If you ever come in here in a suit and tie, sell everything.
It's over.
Dude.
No, that's the bottom.
Oh, that's the bottom.
Imagine I came in here with like a Brooks Brothers bag, and all of a sudden I'm like, look, man, valuations, and I'm like just talking DCFs, dude, that'd be pretty negative.
So wait. So when you say this is white knuckle, what would you put this on a par with in like the last 10 years?
I would put it on par with, from a white knuckle, like being in Tokyo, Black Monday, and just going through that full.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd put it probably above that because of the fundamental reasons.
Wait, like 1987?
No, in terms of last year.
When was the
the yen thing? That was August.
No, in terms of August.
Oh, I was like, what?
So in terms of August, being in Tokyo when that happened, that was probably like, I would put that in like a top 5 in the last like few years.
But what about like in your world?
But I would probably put this along with some of those COVID moments in terms of March 2020, in terms of just navigating investors through. I'd put it in that level of a moment relative to like a fear level.
That degree of unknown.
Well, to that unknown, and just to like, there's so many investors like institutionally where you never hear from them. They're human voicemails. When they call you on your cell on a Sunday, that's ultimately, like, that's where you sort of earn your value. But we don't just sit there taking sort of DeepSeek and giving our own sort of view of it. We talk to, I'd probably say like 30, 40 within the industry, whether it's CIOs, CEO, big tech companies, AI engineers we know around the world. Well, but for me, it's trying to understand what's real, what's not. So it's like 6 million not using Nvidia hardware, fictional. It's like I've said, better chance me lining up next Saquon in the Super Bowl. That's that. So like right away, I took that off.
Yeah.
Thinking, was this a great model, a great LLM? No doubt. But the reality is, it's similar to our view of AI. There's no less GPUs that are going to be used because of DeepSeek.
But you know why a lot of people were panicking? Not even because the investment implications, the geopolitical implications. Wait a minute, China has AI? And somebody like Andreessen correctly points out, forget about how many GPUs. It is a Sputnik moment because Sputnik is what forced us to go land something on the moon. You could say like this might be the most bullish development for AI ever, that we now are in a bipolar kind of AI race. Granted, we're probably kicking their asses, but up until last week, who was our competitor in AI? The French? Nobody.
But I also think that the market has overly discounted, and I think you even see in China tech, just the view of China tech in AI. Now, look, US is way ahead of China tech, but as someone that goes to the region 4 or 5 times a year, I mean, to just say that they're out of it is the wrong move but it's my view of globally where this is all going. Physical AI in terms of autonomous, in terms of robotics. Jensen will be the first one to tell you. I mean, I'd say 20% of the companies that I met at CES were ultimately China tech companies. This is not a bad thing because ultimately, whether it's Jevons paradox or however you want to think about it, the cheaper that models are, whether it's DeepSeek, Dan, Batnick, whatever it may be, that's just more and more bullish for use cases, software, and ultimately the use cases as they actually play out. But for anyone to actually think that like CapEx is going to dramatically change, they're doing something that we haven't focused on. I know tech companies for the last month have had war rooms looking at the model, dissecting it. And basically the view is like you talked about, like it's viewed as a great model. But I think internally, they view this much more like okay, we got some competition regardless how they did it. That's a good thing. I never felt that this was something where it's like, oh my.
Recent claims by China's DeepSeek about building advanced AI models with fewer Nvidia GPUs caused market panic and raised geopolitical concerns. Some viewed this as a Sputnik moment, signaling intensified competition in AI. However, industry experts like Dan Ives remain skeptical, emphasizing that demand for Nvidia's hardware remains strong and this competition could boost global AI innovation rather than hinder it. Ives highlights the importance of research to discern reality from hype, viewing this as an opportunity for the US to solidify its AI leadership. While acknowledging China's progress, he remains confident in Nvidia's position and sees competition as a driver for technological advancement. Could this competition redefine the global AI landscape? How might geopolitical tensions impact AI innovation?